Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Scott Bogman and by Pat Fitzmaurice. We are talking some must-have dynasty targets. You can think of this through the lens of trade talks. You can think of this through the lens of startup drafts. However you want to look at this, guys that we are targeting in all sorts of leagues, wherever we are in the life cycle of those dynasty leagues. Quick reminder for everybody that all of our 2026 consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. You can navigate to our dynasty rankings from there as well. Guys, we got 5 names from each of you. I say let's just dive right in here. Fitz, we'll start with you. Who do you have?
It's Bucky Irving, and I know everyone is running away from Bucky right now. I feel like I should take Todd Bowles out for dinner, a few beers, something, because Todd Bowles, with his quote, his curious wording choice when he said that Irving would be back on the field from his shoulder injury sometime in the summer or fall. And
on Earth, though.
What do you mean? On Earth?
On Earth. Like, he will be on this planet. So that's good. Just be more vague, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, a shoulder injury, Irving does not have to play tackle football next week. And by the time training camp arrives, he'll have had about 5 months from when he had the surgery. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I know he had a disappointing season last year. It was partly injury related. Not only his injuries, but the offensive line for the Buccaneers was really banged up. And we saw them slip in the run blocking metric, adjusted line yards. They plummeted. Like, they were really high up in 2024. I think they were 4th in 2024 and 22nd in 2025. Excuse me, they were 2nd in adjusted line yards in 2024, 22nd in 2025. So I think that had something to do with why Bucky's breakaway run rate went from 34.9% as a rookie to 13.4% last year. Why he went from, only 3.4 yards per carry last year after averaging 5.4 in his rookie year. And in his rookie year, 3.93 yards per contact after, 3.93 yards after contact per attempt. And last year, only 2.33 yards after contact per attempt. So big drop in all the run stats. But man, like, this is not going to be the committee, I'm convinced, that everyone thinks it will be. I just think Kenneth Gainwell is a 1-for-1 replacement for Rachaad White, who Bucky basically kicked to the curb late in 2024 and held off last year. Even in Bucky's bad year last year, he averaged 20.3 touches per game. That is workhorse duty by modern standards. And Gainwell is a better pass blocker than Bucky, admittedly. But, like, Gainwell's not even a better pass catcher than Bucky. For his career in the NFL, Bucky has averaged 1.52 yards per route run, Gainwell 1.19. And in his best college season, Bucky had more catches than Gainwell in his best college season at a better school that played tougher competition. So I don't think that this is sort of the dire setup that people are seeing as far as Bucky's workload, as far as the recovery from injury. Like, if people want to fade him, by all means fade him. I'm buying.
Bogman, Fitz and I talked about this a little on a Dynasty live stream we did on the YouTube channel earlier this week. I hope everybody checks those out kind of moving forward. We're trying to do more of them. They're really fun, just kind of taking everybody's questions, stuff like that. We talked about Bucky. He's RB17 in the Dynasty Trade Value chart. That's also where he is in the expert consensus rankings. It's interesting that if you look last year, the 4 games before he missed several weeks in a row, he was, and this is in PPR scoring, which most dynasty leagues are. He was RB15, RB11, RB15, RB9. And then his first 2 games after coming back in weeks 13 and 14, he was RB15 and RB13. So the first 6 games he played last season, he was RB15 or better every week. And again, he's being ranked outside of the top 15 right now, both in terms of our internal trade value chart and the expert consensus rankings from across the industry. So I say all that to say, like, I am somebody who has, like, somewhat faded Bucky, like, relative to cost, like, particularly going into last year. But where he is right now as a mid RB2, I know he's somebody you've liked in the past, Bogman, that feels like a value.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at, I think, 13 right now, but I have him in a tier between 9 and 16, so I can't get him all the way down where he is in the current ECR. So I understand. I think I'm with Fitz in this. Like, if you want to sink Bucky because you think he's injury prone, right? The shoulder injury happened last year. He also had, the depression stuff last year. Like, if these things make you afraid of Bucky, then by all means, like Fitzy said, go ahead and fade him for those reasons. I understand that. But the production when he came back, and Worm in particular, I remember being kind of out on Bucky returning last year because I was like, well, they have decent backups here. Sean Tucker's been getting these carries by the goal line. They saw White, right? Like, they have decent backups. They're probably going to ease him in. They didn't. They threw him right to the wolves. So I think Gainwell is brought here kind of as an injury insurance, right? Like, I feel like that's why he's the same type of player that Bucky is. So call him Timu Bucky or whatever. Anything happens to him, then we have Kenneth Gainwell right behind him. So we don't really miss a beat. So I think this is a good time, particularly now when they're being vague about the injury. He's coming off a down year because of injuries that people are fading him. This is the perfect time to buy. So I like this call out in particular because it is a great time to buy Bucky because he's at what is probably going to be his cheapest.
Can I just piggyback on two things Bog said? Number one, about like the idea Gainwell is going to challenge Bucky. Last year, Gainwell averaged 6.7 rushing attempts per game. That was a career high. And like he got 20 plus in that game that Jaylen Warren was kind of a late scratch for. So yeah, I'm dubious about the possibility that he carves out a major chunk of the rushing load. And as far as that depression thing, I believe Bucky said the source of his depression was being hurt and, for the first time, not really being able to play football and felt like he was letting his team down and everything. So like kind of put him in a dark place.
Yeah, I mean, and that can manifest itself 1,000 different ways. So if those things scare you off, then okay. But I'm not going to be scared off by that stuff or the shoulder injury. Like Fitzy said, I think he's going to have a long enough time. And I feel like every time I've doubted Bucky, after his combine, I moved him down a little bit. Huge mistake. Yep. Last year when he was coming back, I didn't think they were going to give him the full workload, and they did. Every time I doubt Bucky, he has made me look like an idiot. So I'm not going to do it again.
As I recall, and I'm actually trying to quickly pull up the article here. One of the reasons that I was a little down on him going into last year was he was ranked pretty highly. I'm trying to pull up our trade value chart from then. Yeah, he was RB7 in the trade value chart. Right now he's RB17. I think he belongs somewhere in the middle of there. I mean, Bogman, you said he's about RB13. I don't think he should be as high as RB7, but I do think RB17 is too low. I think right in the middle of that is about where I would be comfortable. That would put him based on our trade value chart, Fits 108, 109-ish next year is kind of the equivalent that we have in the charts. Is that, I know you really like next year's class. As much as you like Bucky, does that still seem aggressive to you to give up a pick like that to get him?
Fairly aggressive. Just because I know you don't have to pay that price right now.
Yeah.
I think you could get him for a late
right
first.
now, it would be lower.
Yeah, if you're buying him for fair market price, you don't want to pay fair market price. You want to pay a little bit lower. So,
right.
Right now, what we're saying is go fishing, right? Like you try to acquire him, and if he's going to cost exactly what he should cost, and it's not a deal, and you leave it. So,
yeah. I mean, I see him more as a value vis-a-vis other running backs than just an overall value. Because after all, running backs their value in Dynasty is a little more fragile than it is for players at other positions. And Bucky's a running back who's under 200 pounds, and there's a certain injury risk baked into that.
What if I'm offering you, Fitzy, an equivalent running back and a pick? Like if I'm giving up Bucky in a third for next year, let's say a mid-third for Chase Brown. Do you want Chase Brown
I've got
more?
I've got Bucky ranked ahead of Chase Brown.
Oh, okay. So well, then there you go. Easy answer.
Let's stick with the same team, Bogman. Who's your first half target?
Yeah, I'm going to say Emeka Egbuka. He is expensive on the trade value chart. I think he's a 63, which would be like a late first-round pick or a late 2027 first-round pick plus like an upside shot, like a Tesla, a Jeremy Bernard, a Chris Bell from this class. But if you look at the first 5 games, last season where Emeka Egbuka was perfectly healthy and so was Baker Mayfield. He was wide receiver 3, and that was with Mike Evans playing, by the way, at that point. So for the first 3 weeks. He was wide receiver 3 in those first 5 weeks. Then he got hurt. He came back through week 12, though. Still, he was wide receiver 12 overall. So he was still a wide receiver 1. Then Baker Mayfield got hurt. Then Mike Evans came back late, and so did McMillan. So weeks 13 through 18, Egbuka was wide receiver 63. But again, that was when Baker was playing through his injury. We had Mike Evans come back, all these things. So I think right now, Emeka Egbuka, I think he's going to end the season as like a top 6 or 7 wide receiver. He's going to be the number 1 for Tampa Bay, I think, by a decent margin. Chris Godwin's getting a little bit older. You know, Ted Hurst is a nice guy that they brought in, but he's not a guy that's going to challenge Emeka Egbuka at all. So I'm really excited for Emeka Egbuka's future. And right now he's going to wide receiver 12. I have him at 11 currently. I think there's way more upside here. So I just think that you should at least be asking about Egbuka now. This may not be a trade that you can get done. Maybe it's not perfect, but I do think his value is low based on where it could end up being. And I think he went up a couple spots in a couple days, because when I originally looked on Monday, he was wide receiver 14.
Yeah, he is 12 now. There's been some fun comments from his new offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, about, you know, how he might get used this year. Obviously, Mike Evans gone. This is one, Fitz, where you guys just talked about with Bucky, like, you don't have to pay market price. This one I would pay market price. Like, I think it's hard to rank him higher than where he is right now, but you can see the upside there, and I would just be like totally comfortable paying what it costs, not overpaying, but paying what it costs to get Egbuka right now. You know, some of the names around him, like in the trade value chart, for example, Tedero, McMillan, Carnell Tate, George Pickens are the 3 right ahead of him. I could see him usurping those 3. I really like those players, but I could see a world where he usurps those guys going into next season. The top 8's pretty tough to, just kind of break into, but like, you know, injuries happen, maybe Neighbors comes back slowly, like you never know. So like, I think Egbuka is like a very worthy target right now. And I think all the upside cases that, you know, Bogman is laying out make a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
And I've actually got Bogman outflanked on Egbuka in the rankings. I've got him at wide receiver 10 in Dynasty.
Damn.
I just remember last year around the time of the drafts where the consensus was that Egbuka was one of the 2 or 3 most universally beloved prospects among all NFL teams. Like, everyone who met with him just couldn't say enough good things about like what kind of a person he was and how eager he was and how good he was on the whiteboard, and just everything was so positive. Then he gets into OTAs and like the buzz is great about how he's performing. Then in training camp, the drumbeat continues to be positive. And then he gets off to that red hot start where he's wide receiver 3 through the first 5 weeks before he tweaks his hamstring and things go a little off the rails and Baker gets hurt, and Baker looks a little more like the Carolina Panthers version of Baker Mayfield than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers version. Things just kind of went downhill, but Mike Evans no longer there. And I should note that when Egbuka got off to that great start the first 5 weeks last season, at least one of Godwin and Evans was there for all 5 of those games where Egbuka was playing great. I think it was Godwin missed the first 3 and then Evans missed games 4 and 5.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So it wasn't like Egbuka had that wide receiver, the prime wide receiver role all to himself.
And we didn't like this landing spot initially because of Evans and Godwin. Because
we thought it was crowded. Exactly. And now Godwin's a year older. He's 30 now, I think. And, I don't think Godwin's quite the same guy he was pre-leg injury. Evans is gone. Like, Egbuka can absolutely I expect him to be the high target earner in Tampa Bay this year. So, yeah, I'm very bullish. I think it looks more like the early season Egbuka in 2026 than the Egbuka we saw from week 6 on last year.
What round in a dynasty startup? Superflex?
I think we're talking 3. I think that's where he probably goes like mid to late 3, and I think I'd take him early 3.
Do you agree with that, Bogman?
Yeah, I got him at 30 in Superflex, so mid to early 3rd round.
Okay. I was thinking more like late 3, early 4th, but I don't want to be low on him, so maybe I need to kind of reconsider that because he's a player
adjust
that I
Worm
really like.
Adjust.
I've got him 27 overall.
Okay.
So I think he's like an early third.
You do have me outflanked. I don't like that.
He told you. Listen, if you play in a serious dynasty league, you should check out League Tycoon. It's a modern fantasy football platform built specifically for dynasty leagues, not redraft. Standard dynasty leagues on League Tycoon are completely free. League Tycoon has tools for serious dynasty leagues, slow auction drafts with 20 plus players at once, trade auctions, draft lotteries, compensatory picks, and league history import with no ads or sportsbook clutter. And if your league wants to go even deeper, League Tycoon also offers Contract Dynasty with multi-year contracts, extensions, rookie deals, tags, and restricted free agency tenders. Standard Dynasty is free for everyone, and for Contract Dynasty leagues, use promo code PROS to get your first season free. Start your free Dynasty League today at LeagueTycoon.com. And for Contract Dynasty leagues, that's promo code PROS to get your first season free. Fitz, let's go to a running back for your next one.
I'm going to go with Blake Corum. Just a player who we saw, I don't know if we can call it a coming out party when he was just the backup to Kyren Williams last year, but with his basically 30 to 40% share of the snaps and carries, showed us what he could do and even gave us a little bit of standalone value, a guy you could actually start. And I know in Dynasty, like we like our running backs to catch passes because Dynasty leagues are typically PPR leagues. And that's the one thing Blake Corum doesn't do, or at least hasn't done yet in the NFL. But I love that we're getting like playability from him because he is going to be this trusted backup running back in one of the best offenses in the league on a team that with the addition of Myles Garrett is now like kind of an overwhelming Super Bowl favorite and figures
And
to have
maybe
like
Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and maybe Aaron Donald. They're going to have run-friendly game scripts all year. Like, I know Sean McVay is never going to go into full caveman mode where he's running the ball 60% of the time, but the Rams will be able to have the luxury of running the ball a lot this year. And whatever happens if Kyren goes down, all of a sudden Corum's a guy who you would be ranking in weekly rankings as like a top 5 or top 10 running back. And he's only 25. We liked him as a prospect. We liked what we saw of him last year. I think the needle is up and he's generally cheap in startups and as far as trades. I mean, he's almost like a throw-in level guy. I've got him running back 26, but what's the ECR on Corum Worm? I know I'm
34
ahead. 34. Yeah. So I think he's worthwhile. And I don't think he necessarily can't catch passes. I just think he hasn't been asked to do it really, either in college or in the pros.
By the way, the reason I hesitated on that ECR, thank you for stepping in, Bogman, is because I was on the trade value chart page. He is higher on there, I think partially due to your ranking, Fitz. He's up at RB 28 in the trade value chart. But yes, in the overall expert consensus rankings, he's at 34. And again, those are PPR rankings in there. For the sake of argument, Fitz, if I were to tell you like guaranteed Kyren Williams does not get hurt this year, what do you think the upside is for where Corum finishes? Like I'm trying to kind of pinpoint just how much standalone value he really does have if Kyren doesn't go down, because even in that, he had that really hot December to finish last year, right? It was best kind of four game stretch that he had. He was playing 33% of the snaps, 31% of the snaps, 46, and then 29% of the snaps across those 4 games where he had most of his production. So like, do you feel like that snap count can go up? Do you feel like that's high enough given the scoring equity we think he might have and just how many touchdowns this team was going to score next year? There's also a team that I was looking this up, so I apologize if you said this and I missed it. Like, they scored a lot of touchdowns last year. Stafford threw a ton. Like, it was clear they were interested in getting him the MVP. And, a lot of those short yardage plays were just throw it to Devontae Adams. Yep. If that's not the way they approach it this year and they're like, hey, we get close, let's just pound it with Corum, those touchdown numbers could go even higher. So what is the standalone value if Kyren stays healthy the whole year?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think he's going to be like a running back 3. Somewhere in that range, but I do think he could potentially have more than the 6 touchdown runs he had last year for a team that figures to score a lot this year.
Bogman, where are you at on Corum?
I completely agree with this call out, and I think Corum in the overall is probably one that I have the biggest difference on and where I'm ranking him just a lot higher, because you look, this season, I don't think we're going to see that Matthew Stafford throwing 1 million touchdowns specifically late. Because I think with such overwhelming odds to be the favorite to win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl, and you definitely have a chance to win it specifically with Garrett and Donald on your line, it should be, all right, we're beating the brakes off this team. Let's run for the entire fourth quarter so we don't put Stafford in any situation where he might get hurt. So let's pound the rock. I think it's going to be a lot of Corum and a lot of Kyron this season at the end of games. So, keep these guys, and Kyron's getting a little bit older, keep him healthy down the stretch as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of Blake Corum this season in particular as a closer to close out games, specifically in inside the 5, because, let the young man take those hits and keep your workhorse a little bit healthier. And Kyron is a cap savings overall starting next year. Now, next year it's only $2 million. I don't think, or less than that. I don't think you cut him then, but he's definitely gone in 2029 when he's going to be saving $9 million. And if Stafford is gone, maybe they do keep both these guys and don't cut Kyron at all, because they need to run the ball, because Ty Simpson is a very, doesn't have a lot of starts. He's very inexperienced. So I think just there's different pathways to Blake Corum being a great value. This is the one I was most upset about. That. And Fitz, you put your sheet together like 3 minutes after we knew what the show was this week, and you had Blake Corum, and it was the first name I thought of, but
I wake up before
you
4
did like
in the
him more coming out of
Boggs.
college than I did. I have to give that up.
Yeah, I'm not a vampire like you, Boggs. I wake up before 4 in the afternoon.
I wake up before 4 in the afternoon.
It was funny. I was like, all right,
days.
guys, send me your names for the show. This was like early afternoon one day, and I was like, by tomorrow evening, and Fitz sent them like 5 minutes later. So
yeah.
He had a lot of time, and
guess he gets Blake Corum then.
Fantasy Pros chains me to my desk. I don't know what else to do.
Let's stick with the young running backs here, Bogman. Your next must-have dynasty target.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to push back on the TreVeyon Henderson hate coming from other sources on this website recently. So our guys Erickson and Debro, I don't think are very much in on TreVeyon for this season, which I can understand. This season, Ramondre is back. Ramondre had better efficiency numbers than TreVeyon did last season, but I think right now, and his ECR is still RB12. I have him at RB9, but you can get him for Marvin Harrison has been questionable. You could get Henderson for Harrison straight up. I know that's something Fitzy would probably do. Jalen Waddle, who is a little bit older, you could get. But your options for 2 for 1, take wide receiver like Dobbs, Reed, Myers, Coker, Noel, add one of the Panthers guys, or maybe J.K. Dobbins, like according to our trade value chart, in 2 for 1. If someone's looking for that, I don't know who does that deal, but that's what the value shows. But I mean, I think I really like Henderson for a lot of different reasons, but the main one is being, okay, you're adding A.J. Brown, right? They faced the 10th, for Stevenson was the 10th most 8+ defenders in the box. For Henderson was 14th most. So for these guys, they came in with a ton of guys up in the box. And now that A.J. Brown has a good quarterback, I think he is going to lighten that a little bit, make everybody take a step back early in the season. And this offensive line was really working well for both these guys last year. Stevenson, again, slightly better. He was first in running yards over expected. Henderson was also in the top 10. Henderson was 5th in explosive percentage. His success percentage was slightly higher than Stevenson, and he had more runs. He had the 6th fastest timed run in the NFL last year, a 55-yard score. And remember the second season breakout for guys like Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, Achane, and the big holes that he has in his game right now are routes and pass blocking, and he has said that is what he's worked on all offseason. So, Stevenson is a decent back, but he's nowhere near the talent level ultimately that Henderson is going to get to. And I think it's probably going to be this season. I think we're a little low on him overall, even though he still is an RB1. So if I could get him for a guy like, I think Marvin Harrison's going to be better this year, but does that mean he's going to be worth more than Henderson? I don't know. Probably not. Waddle is a declining player. So if you're a team that you're deep at wide receiver and you need a running back, and you can make a deal like this, I think you go ahead and do it for Henderson before he soars to the moon, in my opinion.
Fitz, you were like the Henderson guy last year. I think you had him like RB7 or 8, going into the season. You were very excited about him. What kind of usage do you expect this year, and where are you ranking him right now?
RB11, so one spot ahead of Bucky. I'm still bullish. And remember that glorious little breakout we got from him in like mid-November last year? I think it was like a 5-game stretch from mid-November to mid-December where Henderson had like 7 touchdowns and 2 140-some-yard rushing games. And like everyone was like, finally, exactly what we were waiting for. And then all of a sudden the genie went back in the bottle because his pass blocking was terrible, and they trusted Ramondre Stevenson way more to keep Drake May upright, which they kind of needed to because, you had alligator arms at left tackle, and it just, like, you didn't have the best pass blocking offensive line. So you needed a run like that last line of defense. But the funny thing was, when we were talking about the prospect profile for TreVeyon Henderson coming out of Ohio State, he's the best pass blocking running back in this class. And weirdly, that area was a problem for him. But like a guy who was touted as a good pass blocker coming out of college, like the tools for him to do it well are there. He just didn't do it well last year, and it killed his playing time at the end of the year. And I think that complete reduction in playing time at the end of the year is this great smokescreen for anyone who wants to swoop in and buy TreVeyon Henderson now or pick him up in a startup draft.
Would you rather TreVeyon Henderson or Bucky Irving?
I've got Henderson ranked 1 spot higher.
Did you?
So yeah, like in a startup draft, I would take Henderson ahead of
Yeah.
Bucky.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're 5 spots apart in ECR, but and they're the same age. At least I don't know when their birthdays are, but they're both currently 23. So that's interesting with Bucky having the extra year in the league. If you want a chance to win a Chris Olave signed Saints mini helmet for free, courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com, all you have to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros Dynasty YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any of our videos, and that is it. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you know when new videos are up and you can claim your prize. All right, Fitz, let's go to a receiver.
Christian Watson. And a lot of people are just going to dismiss this out of hand because of his injury history, 20 missed games in 4 NFL seasons. I totally get it. Whenever our social media team puts up some video of me talking nicely about Christian Watson, I just get roasted in the comments because everyone assumes he's never going to make it through a full season. But, Watson was excellent last year.
To be clear, this is why the social media team keeps putting those clips up.
Yeah, exactly. They like to see me barbecued by all these people on Twitter.
Engagement. That's right.
Yeah. So, but tears his ACL at the end of the 2024 season. Comes back last year. Comes back like pretty rapidly too. And in 10 regular season games last year, Watson averaged 17.5 yards per catch, 11.1 yards per target, 2.28 yards per route run, which is like close to Justin Jefferson's yardage per route run for his career. Like he was producing at a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown pace. And now the Packers, who have been using this very frustrating rotation of like 5 wide receivers, well, Romeo Doubs gone, Dontavian Wicks gone. It's basically going to be a core 3 of Watson, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden. And I think Watson is pretty clearly the best of those 3 guys. Now, Tucker Kraft could be a major player for the Packers too, but coming off a torn ACL, so we don't know how ready he'll be in week 1, even though he's confident he'll be full go. And I love the athletic profile with Watson. 6'4", 4.36 speed. He's got Jordan Love as his quarterback, who was like second in the league in EPA, expected points added per dropback last season, and it's just a really good passer. And the Packers have been run heavy the last couple of years. They've been 31st and 22nd in run rate, pass rate over expected. What if they have to throw more this year? Like, what if their defense isn't as good with Micah Parsons missing for probably the first month and a half? Watson, this guy has the chance to be special, and the injury-prone label is making him much more affordable than he should be.
He wide receiver 13, in that stretch coming back from the injury last year. Even in PPR, which is not his best format, he had 3 top 6 finishes at the position from week 11 to week 17. I wonder, I didn't take the time to look this up. I wonder how many receivers had 3 finishes that high in that same time span. I can't imagine it's many of them. Like the ceiling week to week is just so high with Christian Watson, and now he gets this extra time, a normal offseason, right, that he didn't get last year coming off the injury, all the stuff that Fitz laid out. I was thinking about trading him away in one of my leagues that you guys are not in, and I probably end up won't trading him away, but I was like trying to think about like what I would be willing to give him up for, and the reason that I think I might not actually end up trading him is every time I looked at like, well, what would I actually consider taking for him that's realistic, I felt like I'd actually be really scared to be getting rid of Christian Watson. Like the fear of missing out, the FOMO of not having him on my team when he looked as good as he did to finish the season, coming off the injury, when he fits with Jordan Love seemingly so well. Like I was scared to move away from him, and so I think ultimately I end up not trading him. But wide receiver 32. In ECR, obviously that's way lower than he was living up to when he came back at the end of last year. Bogman, where is he ranked for you?
In the 40s. I'm too afraid. I'm a coward when it comes to the injury stuff, right? And I think the perfect trade for him in my book, because you look at the running backs that he's around, it's like Charbonnet, is in there, another guy that's hurt, or like Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs who has the off the field stuff. So it's like either an old guy, an injured guy, or a guy with off the field issues in that range. So I don't want to trade him for that. I think you're right in that, Worm. But I do see that he's worth somewhere in the vicinity of a pick 7 through 12 next year. That's what I want for Christian Watson. I want a dart throw at the back end of the first round next year, mid to back end, somewhere in there, because I know talent's going to fall, specifically in Superflex leagues, because so many quarterbacks are going to go. So talent is going to fall at the running back position, at the wide receiver position. So if I could trade Watson and get one of those, late first round picks, I would definitely do it. And I think even though Fitzy is telling us that he loves him, I think he might do that too in a Superflex.
No one's giving you a first round pick for Watson.
That's what the trade value chart says. It says 45, and he's 46 points on our chart. So
that's because
I do
probably
think
because Debro and I like him so much, but you're not getting that. You're getting a second.
I think you can though. I think you're wrong, Fitz. I think that if someone is as excited as you are, I don't think they're looking as much into that next year as we are. I think most people are.
You could have gotten a late first in this year's draft, not in next year's.
I bet you there's some scenarios where you still can. Not all of them, and not with shrewd owners. I understand that, but if I can get that, or even a high second, I would trade. I would trade Watson
in a Green Bay or Ashwaubenon dynasty league, perhaps, but not.
I think you underestimate people's love for a guy like Watson.
Yeah, for what it's worth, to defend Boggs' stance here, like not every league is as well informed and is aware that this next year's class is like a lot of the ones that listen to us are aware, but there are leagues out there where people maybe aren't as aware because they don't listen to shows like this, and they just think,
Christian Watson when you
and he had such a great finish last year, and now he's healthy again. I think it's unlikely, but I don't think it's impossible in the right league.
Yes,
I think in most leagues it's impossible. I think there are leagues where it is possible, would be my guess, but I think for sure.
Either way, I'm looking to get rid of Watson because I think his value is inflated right now because of his finish. So for me, I'm on the opposite end of this, but we've been talking about this since January, and nothing has changed for either one of us. Fitzy's very excited about Watson. I am not. That's just kind of how it goes. So love your Corum take. This one sucks, Fitz.
Fitz, what do you think about like Watson plus a lower pick to get a first? Do you think that, like, I don't know what that, if that pick's a third Watson next year, if it's like maybe like a 28 second, if somebody's really leaning to willing to lean into a longer term vision? Like, do you think Watson plus a pick gets you a first in some, in more leagues?
Maybe if I'm making that trade with Debro, I'm able to do it. But with the average person who thinks, the average person has much more of a Bogman point of view on Christian Watson. Like that's kind of where it's at.
I just want to bring up, because you mentioned the social media backlash. Fitz, we had a clip from you and me on Jeremiah Smith and where he would be in the Dynasty trade value chart before ever playing a game. Bogman, I don't know. Did you see this clip?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna ask your prediction for what Fitzy said, but I'm curious where you have Jeremiah Smith, just because we were thinking about the social media stuff. Because I thought that was.
I mean, I think Fitz
when
is
he
correct.
Walks in.
Right. I think.
By the way, for those who didn't see the clip, wide receiver 3 in the Dynasty trade value chart before ever playing a game.
I think maybe I would have him at 5, but I would have him in the top tier. I know a lot of people have the top 2 or 3 in the first tier. People don't know what to do with Jefferson since the quarterback play was so bad there last year. I'm not really flinching at Jefferson's value as much. I do have him at 4. So if you want to put him at 4, okay. I'd probably have him at 5 behind Jefferson, Puka, JSN, and Chase, but in that tier. So
there are a bunch of Marvin Harrison Jr. has turned a bunch of people into nervous Nellies about highly regarded Ohio State wide receivers.
We got so many comments about Harrison.
Apples and oranges, man. Apples and Jeremiah Smith is a different species.
People, there were. I'm surprised that people were so upset because you chose. When we were talking fades, you chose Marvin Harrison. And the social media put out my clip on Marvin Harrison, which is what I said there needs to be a line in the sand. And the Marvin Harrison lovers crushed me for that. They did not like that. And they also missed the first part where I said I expect him to have a good 2026. So this probably isn't where we're going to be. But if he's bad in 26, I think we need to draw a line in the sand because we just keep making excuses every year.
Those social media people.
Yeah. Who are those guys? The guys to compare Jeremiah Smith to are not Ohio State receivers. It's Jamar Chase. It's Julio Jones. It's Calvin Johnson. Those are the names. And
Let
if you still
fade him, keep fading Jeremiah Smith. He sucks.
If you want to say that like third wide receiver is too high, there's so many great wide receivers right now who have actually proven it. We don't know where his landing spot is. That's a totally valid argument, I think. But you cannot argue, well, we're just doing Marvin Harrison Jr. again, are we? That is not what it is. Jeremiah Smith is a different tier of prospect. He is in with those guys who are just like, and by the way, all of them who did hit, Chase.
I mean, let Jeremiah
Julio,
Smith
Calvin.
scare you off of, or let Marvin Harrison scare you off of Jeremiah Smith at your own failure there. That is not going to be the right
I hope we get those nervous Nellies picking 101 and I'm 102 in next year's rookie draft.
That would be nice. All right, let's get back to the show. Bogman, your next must-have target.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is for someone building for the future. Kyle Monangai right now. He's 40 on the trade value chart. That's along the lines of like Wan'Dale Robinson, Jaden Higgins, Matthew Golden, guys like that. And Swift is a free agent in 2027, and they don't have a ton of running back help on the roster as of right now. Monangai and Swift were both not facing many stack boxes. I mean, we heard Jake last week, I believe, say, buy the cake, not the icing. And what he meant in that was, don't pick a wide receiver for the Bears. Just take Caleb Williams. He's going to be the best part, right? And I understand that. But also the running backs get a nice big boost from this offense being as high-flying as it is by not having to face stack boxes. These guys didn't get touched behind the line very often either. It's a great scenario for any running back to be in. And if Swift is going to be gone next year, a lot of running backs getting extensions. I'm not going to rule that out completely for Swift. But as of right now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they like Monangai. Monangai is a guy that had 250 touches as a junior, 270 as a senior. So he can be a workhorse back. And I really love whoever the lead back is going to be in this offense right now. So I think next year it's probably going to be Kyle Monangai. So I'm going to try to buy today to get him cheaper than what he's going to cost next season.
I love this. I am a Kyle Monangai. He's I've been saying, Erickson and I have said that all last year on the trade show.
Cool.
He's RB30, which feels like the risk of, and this is always a risk with running backs who kind of go later in the draft, day 3, and show out early. There's always a risk of, well, now they draft the real RB1 of the future higher, in a year or two, right? Like Bijan kind of usurping Tyler Algier, who was a day 3 pick. That's kind of the clean example of it. So as a 7th round pick, it's hard for that not to be in the back of my mind. I think that risk is factored in already when you look at his ranking. He's RB 30 in ECR. This is somebody who, as of right now, has a pretty clear path to being a starting running back a year from now in a very, ascending offense that we are really excited about, that wants to be run heavy. I think he's a good player. We've seen enough for me to at least feel like he's good. I don't know if he's, amazing, but I think he's a good player. It's a fun offense. And there's a path here. And then kind of similar with Corum, like if Swift were to ever get hurt, this is somebody that we're probably ranking as a top 8 running back every week the rest of the way. So like there's real upside from where he's ranked already. And then if they don't go out and draft like a round 2 running back in next year's class, which of course, again, is a risk, then all of a sudden this looks like crazy low. So I really, really like this pick, Bogman. Fitz, what do you think?
Real quick, too, if the Bears don't take an edge with their 1st round pick, I think the fans might go burn the stadium down in 2027, because that's what everybody wanted them to address this year and do anything towards it, because they still like Austin Booker. So I think that the early picks are probably going to be spent on defense next year anyway.
You would think. And I feel like the 3 of us are pretty modest about taking victory laps, but I feel like we could skate a victory lap with the Stanley Cup on Kyle Monangai, because like Boggs, you and I really liked him at Rutgers, where small, not that fast, but man, like you watched the guy at Rutgers and it was like trying to tackle the Tasmanian Devil from the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Like this guy is just so like angry and like kinetic, and
yes.
And I think Worm quickly picked up on our enthusiasm for Monangai. So yes, we'll pass the Stanley Cup to Worm for a lap as well.
Thank you.
And 7th round pick in last year's class, Fitzy. I mean, Scatterboo was a 4th, right? It was littered with running backs, and the upcoming class has a couple really good ones at the top, but I don't know how the rest is going to fare. Like running back seems like it might be a little weak next year.
And there was just something you said, Boggs, about how rarely he ever gets touched behind the line of scrimmage. And just generally, let's not forget that Ben Johnson has been one of the best designers of running games we have seen. Like I don't know if Kyle Shanahan and McVay can match Ben Johnson as far as designing a running game. Like he is fantastic at that and should still be a very good Bears offensive line. They've taken a couple hits with the Chris Dahlman retirement and Ozzie Trapillo, who was, unexpectedly good as a rookie and had that patellar injury, and patellar injuries suck. But it's still going to be a good offensive line, and it's still designed by Ben Johnson. And like I think whether dynasty or redraft, I think kind of both Swift and Monangai are being undervalued.
I think so too. Go get him.
He only averaged 3.9 yards per carry in his game against Maryland his last college season, which is why I thought he sucked until you guys told me he was actually good. But no, yeah, I very quickly was in on Monangai. I was surprised he fell to the 7th round, and I think he showed that was a great. I mean, even if he never does anything else, that's a really good 7th round pick already. What he did
that 2025 class was crazy with running back. So 7th round in that class might as well be. It would have been 3rd in this year's class. It was ridiculous.
Pretty much, yeah. I want to tell everybody about the Trade Analyzer. Dynasty is all about timing the market. You need to know when to buy before a player jumps a tier, when to sell before value drops, and whether the trade you're about to send actually makes sense for your roster. With our Trade Analyzer, you can compare players, rookie picks, and full trade packages before you hit send. If one of these players we've discussed today is someone you want to acquire, make sure you're checking the value first in our Trade Analyzer. Access to the Trade Analyzer is included for all premium subscribers. Start your 3-day free trial today at fantasypros.com/dynasty26 and win the trade market with the Trade Analyzer at fantasypros.com/myplaybook. All right, Fitz, give me another veteran wide receiver.
Yeah, you guys know I'm a notorious ageist when it comes to dynasty football, but I will put in a good word for a guy who's going to turn 31 right around the time the 2026 season kicks off. Terry McLaurin, who poised for a bounce back year after an injury-plagued 2025. McLaurin missed 7 games with a quad injury, and his quarterback, Jaden Daniels, missed 10 games. But when Daniels was a rookie in 2024, McLaurin had 82 catches for 1,096 yards and 13 touchdowns, career high. McLaurin was, I believe, wide receiver 7 in full point PPR that year. So both guys healthy now, and McLaurin should get a big target share. I don't like the analysis where it's like, oh, who else are they going to throw to? But who else are they going to throw to in Washington? Like, who's number 2? Antonio Williams, rookie 3rd rounder, Chigo Okonkwo. And we've heard
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, if anyone wants to
Might
sign
be playing
him
football
after
at
his
the nice
little,
place with the padded walls.
yeah, exactly. His little Instagram rant was probably not great for future employment for Brandon Ayuk. And we've seen Washington's new offensive coordinator, David Blau, say that he feels compelled to find a way to get McLaurin 10 targets a game. And this was a guy who before last year, when things were short-circuited by injuries, had rattled off 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons and averaged 80 catches a year over that span. So this guy's good over his career, 8.9 yards per target, 1.89 yards per route run. Outstanding numbers when you consider some of the quarterbacks Terry McLaurin was forced to play with early in his career. So I think he's a good buy if you're not too afraid of buying a 31-year-old wide receiver, about to be 31-year-old wide receiver.
Are you interested, Fitz, in like pretty much any situation and are not scared off by the age? Or would you be an ageist if like, oh, I don't know if I'm really ready to contend right now. Like this is more for a win now team.
No, right. If I'm rebuilding, like if he's a veteran on a rebuilding team, like I've got a McLaurin on a team right now where I'm kind of in limbo and I've kind of been straddling the line between rebuild and try to contend again. And I think if I start, 1-3, I'll be looking to sell McLaurin in that league.
Yeah.
Assuming McLaurin is playing well and I can get a good price for him.
What would you give up if you're a contender trying to acquire him? Like definitely not a first, but like
no. I mean,
I don't know if
like I'd consider a second in 2027, and I think
would you give up RJ Harvey?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I
mean, they're like 4 points difference.
I think
on the
Harvey's
trade value chart.
Fitz pretty down.
I'm worried
on
Harvey
now.
is kind of a bomb after what we saw last year. Let's be honest.
Tootin.
Yeah.
Tootin's the exact same cost on the trade value chart.
Yeah. I mean, the Jaguars' backfield deployment is going to be kind of a mystery. So right now, do I want to do that without seeing how those guys are used in week 1? I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
I think I would do that.
If I'm contending, I'd probably be willing to give up Tootin for that's assuming that Chris Rodriguez has some sort of role in that offense.
I mean, but I like, even if he doesn't and it's all Tootin, I think it might be all McLaurin this year.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are pushing those chips in,
sure.
I think for this year, McLaurin
that's fair. I would deal Tootin for him. Sure.
It is funny, Fitz. You scared me when you said you don't like the analysis of who else are they going to throw to, because when you mentioned Terry McLaurin, I was going to say that. I was like, well, who else are they going to throw to? And then thankfully you said, but it actually does apply here because, yeah, this is a situation where how could it not? It's the reason why I have talked about Chigo Okonkwo all offseason. It's the reason why I liked Antonio Williams in rookie drafts, because who besides Terry McLaurin? Well, now we're talking about the guy that we know is going to get those targets. So
the worry about Terry McLaurin would be like, can Jaden Daniels stay upright? That's my worry about him for 26. That would be my worry.
And maybe the one guy the Commanders could sign that would make me have to reassess my expectations for McLaurin in 2026 would be Stephon Diggs, because I think that guy can still play.
The thing with Diggs that's interesting is, and obviously he went to Maryland, so like I followed his career really closely. A lot of people were like, well, why didn't the Ravens draft this guy out of Maryland? Because obviously they're close enough and could see the program that they had no quarterbacks there. There's a lot of talk about like he needed to get away from the area, and he hasn't had the squeaky cleanest off-field history in the NFL, and obviously has stuff going on right now in that regard this offseason. And I don't want to like speak to any of that, but like coming back to the area might actually like be something that he ultimately avoids if he's trying to avoid some of those influences from where he grew up in the area. So like Baltimore and Washington are two teams that I've always kind of like not really considered strongly for him. He's a lot further along in his career at this point than he was 10 years ago. Maybe that's not a consideration anymore, but that is something that I'm always thinking about with the Commanders and Ravens, with Diggs specifically. So, but if they were to actually go ahead and sign him, then I agree. I think that's somebody that would kind of change my perspective on Terry for this year, because Diggs, like, well, he's not a superstar anymore. He's pretty good, I think, still. All right, Bogman, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this one because you've talked about him a lot. Talk to us about Skyler Bell.
Well, look, I have Skyler Bell at wide receiver 59, and his ECR is wide receiver 88. So there's not many players that I think are a better buy right now than Skyler Bell. I think the trade value chart is probably a little bit better in finding his value than his actual rank in ECR is, because, you look beyond wide receiver 6, it's like these guys are free. But he's a 20, so, Dylan Sampson, Tyjae Spears, Jordan Mason, Katron Allen, all running backs that could have decent value for this season. Katron Allen's probably more of your future play of that group, but everybody else could have decent value this season. And I'm just willing to trade that away for the upside of Skyler Bell. This is a dude that was second in receiving yards, second in yak, third in targets, third in touchdowns, fourth in receptions, 6th in yards per route run. He was tied for 7th in contested catches when that is the big knock on him. And that was, a lot of that was value, but he was 65% on contested catches last season. 9th in yak per reception, 13th in receiving grade, a 9.71 RAS. Like, there's so much upside here for a guy like Skyler Bell. Will he have some drops? Yes. I don't think those drops are going to keep him off the field, though. And he dropped them down to 3 last season only, when having the 3rd most targets in the country. So I think Skyler Bell has already taken strides in his football life. I think he's going to take a big one, and there's opportunity here in Buffalo. I like Shakir, but I think Skyler Bell has a higher upside, right? He's going to push way past Palmer. Keon Coleman hasn't done anything. I still love DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore leads his team the next couple seasons, but Bell could push Shakir for that 2nd target in this Buffalo offense really quickly. And I just think he's worth the value. You got to trade Jordan Mason to get him? Do it. Got to trade a late 3rd next year for him? Do that to go get Skyler Bell. There's so much upside here. I want him on all my rosters.
I was going to ask about, like, in next year's class, what kind of pick you would give up. So is a late 3rd, is that about what you would want to do?
I think that's what the trade value chart says. It might be closer to an early 3rd, but I think, I would give up a mid to late 2nd. But obviously, it's hard to know where you're going to be picking. I know
that
Fitz
feels like
wouldn't.
a lot given the class next year.
I understand. Trade value chart says late 3rd. Let's stick to that, right? And that's what makes him valuable right now, is that you can get him for a Dylan Sampson or a late 3rd or something like that. That's where I want to buy. Me personally, I like him more than most other people. I think I have the 3rd highest rank out of all rankers on him. So I do want Skyler Bell more. I'm willing to pay more, but I am a psychopath. Everybody understands that. So, wait till the late 3rd. If you can trade him for what is presumed to be a late 3rd, do that.
For me, I would love to, I don't know if this is doable, but I'd love to do something like an anticipated late 2nd in 2028, as opposed to, dealing from next year's class, just because I think we're even going to get to the 3rd round next year. We're going to be really excited about a lot of names in that range is kind of my expectation. Also, again, I don't know if you can do that, but if you could be go to somebody and say, hey, it costs you a 3rd rounder this year to get him. I'll give you a 2nd rounder. You just have to wait an extra year to get it. Interested in doing that? I wonder if there's a path there. Fitz, you obviously kind of reacted to Bogman saying he gave up a 2nd. I assume you wouldn't do that, but what do you see as a fair deal?
Yeah, not a 2nd. Maybe mid to late 3rd next. Yeah, I don't know. I want to keep my 2027 draft picks for the most part, but I do like Skyler Bell, and Boggs even left out the curvilinear movement skills that Matt Waldman was talking about us about.
I also left out Brandon Bean comparing him to Jamar Chase. I
didn't catch that. Was that comp actually?
He called him Jamar Chase light.
Wow.
That's really unfair to him.
That is
yeah,
nice
I think so
praise,
too.
But yeah, I mean, Waldman was excited about Skyler Bell's ability to change direction at high speeds. He's a really interesting prospect. I like him for sure. Goes to a good spot with target opportunity, and so I am bullish. I'm just not giving up a 2027 2nd.
Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. That's Florida's sportsbook. We talk a lot about football on this show, but the NBA Finals are here, and it's 3-1 with the Knicks. That was an insane comeback last night. I don't know if you guys watched it. I haven't watched a ton of NBA in recent years with the Wizards kind of where they're at, but with them hopefully taking a step forward, I have been watching a lot more closely, scouting out the future finals competition for Washington, and holy cow, that was an incredible game last night. The lights are brighter, the pressure's higher, every possession can define a legacy. Will New York finally end a 53-year drought and bring a title to the Big Apple? Or can San Antonio's young superstar tip off the next great dynasty run with a comeback of his own? However you see it playing out, head over to Hard Rock Bet and turn your picks into a payday, because once the final buzzer sounds, that's it for hoops until next season. So shoot your shot while you can. And same game parlays are the best way to get in on the action. Big teams, superstars, clutch performances, so many storylines to bet on. So why not stack them all into a same game parlay for a bigger payout? If you're ever late to tip off, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet all game long from the first bucket to the final buzzer. Try your first bet on Hard Rock Bet today, and you can score $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but also an extra $150 in bonus bets. But the welcome offer is just the tip. Hard Rock Bet has new promos daily, so open up the app right now to see what promo you've got today. And sure, Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sportsbook, but you don't have to be in Florida to join the party. Hard Rock Bet is also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan, with more states on the way. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today, and let's get the party started.
By the way,
guys.
Worm, I did watch that game, and my wife and I are pulling for the Knicks because Jalen Brunson attended the same high school my kids recently attended. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so we're big Knicks, adopted Knicks fans, and it's an avalanche. My wife goes up to the upstairs office to go work on this big work project, and all of a sudden it starts getting a little closer. I'm like, okay, 19 points. 14 points midway through the third quarter. I'm giving her these updates, 9 points, and finally
Don't let her come back down the stairs, though.
Finally, it's like 4 points. Get down here and watch this with me, and she does, and watch that amazing finish. So
I was on the phone with Welsh when that happened. I was like, they just took the lead, dude. This is crazy.
I was at.
He was like Charlie Brown's parents in my ears. I was not hearing anything he was saying. I was just watching the television.
I was at a bar trivia night, and they had the game on the TV there. And one of the guys who was there for trivia at the table next to us was wearing a Manu Ginobili Spurs jersey.
Oh, wow.
And watching the game through his eyes was a sight to behold.
Imagine.
Yeah, that was. I am rooting for the Knicks
he
as
went
well.
home early.
No, he stayed, and he even stayed like 10 minutes after. For me, final buzzer, I am getting out of there. He did kind of stick around until they kind of wrapped up, trivia and everything. But
either get out of there or start doing shots, one or the other.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. All right, guys, let's wrap with a couple of tight ends to talk about here. I actually want to do Bogman's first because it's a really interesting one, and probably a piece that's not going to cost too much. So, Bogman, who's your must-have tight end?
I'm going to say Darnell Washington, and it's because if you're rebuilding, specifically if you're in tight end premium, why not take a shot on Mount Washington here, man? Like the tight ends under Mike McCarthy in Dallas were tight end one every year except that last year when Jake Ferguson was hurt. 12th in 2020 was Schultz. He was 3rd in 21. He was 10th in 22. He was 9th in 23 was Ferguson, and then Ferguson got hurt in 2024. But I mean, Darnell Washington has the size and speed. We heard Mike McCarthy talking about him as an incredible move piece yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago, whenever he was on Mike. But he costs you nothing right now. Here are the comparable players. James Conner, Ray Davis, Jarquez Hunter, Najee Harris doesn't have a team, LaQuint Allen, right? Like, these are the guys that it could cost you. Malik Washington, Renan Thompson, Shamiri DK, Christian Kirk. This is what it costs you for Darnell Washington right now. With his size and speed, I don't think he's ever going to be, a guy that catches 75 passes and has 900 yards. But he could have 8 touchdowns without issue. He could have 10 touchdowns without issue because he's a monster. And you could hand it to him in the backfield. You could throw it to him. He is going to box out like a power forward and tip it in like an OG did. So, I mean, this is an easy buy, specifically if you're a rebuilding team in tight end premium.
I don't know if I would say easy buy, but I understand the case. Spot. Yes, he costs nothing but but sometimes those roster spots you do end up needing them. You say like, why not take a chance on Mount Washington? I'm like, well, maybe because he has like 70 career targets in 3 seasons. Like
yeah, but this offense is going to get way more vertical.
That's true
with McCarthy.
That's
probably
going
to be Freiermuth, right? Specifically this year as well. Probably going to be Pat. as the main pass catcher and Mount Washington out there blocking. But if they turn him in, and if you're in a tight end premium, and by the way, like we said, the deeper your bench is, the more you need to do this. I'll say, and specifically in tight end premium. But I wanted to try and find a new name here, and in tight end premium, I'm going out for Darnell Washington wherever I can.
Bogman, would you give up a 5th rounder next year?
I would give up a 5th rounder in any year for a player that I like. So even with all the upside of next year, that's a 5th round pick. Who cares?
I don't think I would give up a fifth rounder this year. I think even in next year, again, with how deep it is, there's just not enough there for me. Fitz, do you disagree? Would you give up a 5th next year?
No. I just I find him on. I'd rather have Ray Davis or James Conner. Boggs, I'm not just getting you back for the Christian Watson take. I promise.
No,
I think he's just a really good blocker, and I know he is fast, pretty fast and athletic
gifted
for such a monstrous dude. I just don't think he's that good a receiver, and I don't think he was all that good a receiver at Georgia either. And I know Thor Nystrom, in some of his scouting reports, suggested that maybe he had some, he didn't think Darnell Washington was all that good a pass catcher at Georgia. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy you would feel good about starting in any week.
I think they should let him do the tush push.
Comes down
honestly,
to that. But it wouldn't shock me if he spiked a 7 touchdown season one year. I just don't think he's ever going to give you enough catches or yardage to convince you he's worth putting in your starting lineup.
It's fair.
Yeah, I wonder what world in which I'm ever he is my best starting option at this position in any given season. So yeah. Fitz, let's go to a target at tight end that I think people actually will be interested in, which is your final player here.
Also, another very athletic kind of deep dive tight end. It's Terrance Ferguson, 2nd round pick of the Rams in 2025. Didn't do all that much for the Rams last year, only 11 catches on 25 targets, but he averaged 21 yards per catch. Had 231 yards and 3 touchdowns. And when he did get the ball, the catches he did make, you saw what he is capable of. And I think there's a little bit of a buying opportunity now that the Rams have added yet another tight end to their bonfire of tight ends that they've got going. They drafted Max Clare in the 2nd round. Now they've got Max Clare, Terrance Ferguson, Colby Parkinson, Tyler Higbee, and Davis Allen. So it's pretty muddled, although the Rams did have insane production collectively from their tight ends last year. 150 targets, 103 catches, 1,128 yards, 17 touchdowns. And after this year, Davis Allen and Colby Parkinson, their contracts are done. Tyler Higbee is in his 30s and has 2 years left. So we just need to boil this down a little bit to Terrance Ferguson and Max Clare, and now we're cooking with gas. So I would love to see Ferguson ascend to a spot where he starts getting meaningful target shares before Matthew Stafford leaves, because 1 year of Ferguson in an enhanced role with Stafford would be really nice. But I just want to bet on the talent here. This guy's an athletic freak who I think had a 39-inch vertical jump and 4.6 speed, 4.63 speed at 6'5.5", 247 pounds. So, yeah, they liked him enough to draft him in the middle of the 2nd round last year. I think this guy's got a bright future.
I really like Ferguson. I like the point you made about the drafting of Clare will depress some of his value in the eyes. A lot of his value in the eyes of people, which I think really helps. I'm still very interested in buying him. Tight end 21 right now in consensus dynasty rankings. 18 months from now, I don't see any reason why. It might not happen, of course, but I think there's a world where he's inside the top 12. He's not going to be inside the top 5, I don't think, but low end tight end 1 who is currently going as a late tight end 2 in dynasty drafts and rankings. I like the player a lot. I like the team a lot, and I am more optimistic, I think, than the market would show that he will get an opportunity. And I know the response is look at all the tight ends on the team, but I just think he's good. And like you said, that room is going to clear out a bit in the next, year and a half. So I like Ferguson quite a bit. He's in a range of tight ends that I do like. There's a lot of kind of lottery tickets I'd be interested in, but he's probably my favorite in this kind of around tight end 20-ish range. Bogman, where are you at on Ferguson right now?
Yeah, I have him in a tier higher than Darnell Washington, obviously, but
I hope multiple tiers higher.
No, just one tier. I think there's a lot of upside, but look, I think that Ferguson costs you way more, but I still think the cost is not that much, right? You look at the trade value chart, he's in the range. Like if you're looking at wide receivers, it's like Travis Hunter and Chris Godwin and Antonio Williams and Jeremy Bernard, Kayshon Boutte, Isaac Tesla, right? Like I like those upside shots. They're all decent upside shots, kind of in the same vein, kind of as in the same vein. But I think you expect upside from Ferguson, whereas Washington is an absolute lottery ticket. So I think there are much higher expectations for Ferguson, as there should be. It's just not going to be for 26. It's going to be beyond 26. Both these tight ends, though, are for our future plays.
I'll tell you what tight end lottery ticket I like a little better than Washington, by the way. Just circle back to that. One spot lower than Washington in the expert consensus rankings of the position, Ben Sinnott. That's one where I could at least see the case as like the lottery ticket there more so than Washington. I had to just have another call out there, given that he is a Steeler. Washington is. All right. Yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Thanks, everybody, for checking out our must-have dynasty targets. For Bogman and Fitz, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.